Tuesday. Folks, join us on our stream too. We're streaming it Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube slash Make It Plain. By the way, are we still in the period of free trial subscription? Yeah, so you can, if your radio isn't activated, try turning it on now, and it's probably activated. Confirm that for me. Listen online, SiriusXM.com. SiriusXM.com. Listen to the radio is reactivated as of now. Until next Tuesday, I just pushed the button. Your radio is at, and your radio is on, and you have a radio, and you have radio. But you can also watch us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and even see our very next guest. He was victorious in the Arkansas 2nd Congressional District, and he has a story to tell. Clarke Tucker joins us now. Clarke, good morning. How are you? Do we have him? Oh no, that's my fault. That's my there we got him now. Clarke, good morning. How are you, man?
I'm doing great this morning. Thanks so much for having me, Mark.
It's a pleasure to have you. Congratulations on last Tuesday.
Thanks very much. It's pretty exciting.
How many opponents did you have in that? How wide was that Democratic field?
There were 4 total candidates, including me, so three opponents.
Okay. So, refresh my memory. How did Hillary Clinton do in that district in 2016?
Trump carried the district by about 10.5 points, just over 10 points.
And the chances looking good of you flipping it back?
I think so. If I didn't think we could win, then I wouldn't have gotten the race, But we, first of all, presidential elections are just different than local elections, and I've just lived in this district my entire life, and my family's been here for a long time, and I just have deep roots in this community. And Arkansas has kind of a long tradition of voting for people rather than members of a party, and I think that's going to play out here this year.
Now, Clarke, I don't think I have Alzheimer's yet. I seem to remember at one time Arkansas was a pretty blue state. I think we even had a president from Arkansas, didn't we?
That's right.
A Democratic president?
You got yes, sir. Yes, sir. You got a good memory, yeah. And and that just kind of goes to my point. It wasn't that long ago that people in Arkansas were electing Democrats. Unless you have started to vote in the last 6 or 8 years, then it's very likely that you voted for Bill Clinton or our former governor, Mike Beebe. He was running for re-election in 2010, which, as you know, that was a bad year for Democrats nationwide, and we have 75 counties in Arkansas, and he carried all 75 counties that year. And so it's not that long ago, and we had a Democratic congressman in this district up until 2010. And so it's not long ago that Arkansas was electing Democrats across the board.
Indeed. You say, so your family's from there too. You've been there most, if not all, of your life?
Yeah, in fact, I live right now on the same block where I grew up.
Is that right?
That's how much of the same. My parents are still in the house I grew up in, so my kids, they get mad at my wife and me, and they tell us they're going over to their grandparents' house. So, yeah, we.
That's what kids do, don't they?
So, that's right. And then they get whatever they want over there. So it's not. Sometimes it's not ideal, but we make it work.
You have a deep personal story I want our audience to hear as well. You are a cancer survivor, is that right?
That is correct, yes, sir. I was, first of all, I serve in the state legislature here, and I have for the last 4 years. And Arkansas is one of only 2 states in the South to expand Medicaid. And we actually had to do that by clearing a 75% threshold. That's what it takes to have an appropriation here. So we did it by an extra high margin, and we did it really in a innovative bipartisan way. 10% of our state's population is on that program, 300,000 people. And I put my blood, sweat, and tears into that. And the American Health Care Act, in my opinion, would have completely dismantled that program and robbed health care of 300,000 people in Arkansas. So when they voted on that bill last year, that's really when I first started thinking about running for Congress. But it was later in the summer, August 15th to be exact, when I was diagnosed with bladder cancer. And, that fortunately I'm 100% cancer free now. I've had access to great care. But my wife was actually the one to tell me that I had a cancer, and I'd been sedated, and I woke up and I was just in the room with her by ourselves, and she was crying, and I asked her what was wrong, and she said, "You have a tumor." And the notion of having access to care with a pre-existing condition without dying or going bankrupt became a lot less abstract to me and our family in that moment.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, it took a few months to get through that. But when I came out, I was more motivated to run than I had been before.
Because obviously from your own personal experience, you're clear about the real need for people to have access.
That's right. That's exactly right. I'm 37 now. I was 36 last year when I was diagnosed. So, I'm going to be living with that for the rest of my life, and the fact that I have that pre-existing condition. And since being in the race, I've just come to meet and visit with people in all walks of life, and they say, and they get these health conditions through no fault of their own, even though sometimes the rhetoric in D.C. implies that only people who need care are the ones who don't take care of themselves, and that's just not true. But people who get these health conditions, and they worry every day about their family's ability to survive based on what Congress and the president might do to their health care.
So Clarke Tucker with us, folks in Arkansas. Second, tell everyone about him and ask all your friends and family in the second to support him, and you all support him as well. We'll also share with you exactly how you can do that. Um, you went to Little Rock Central High.
I did. I did. And that was a very formative part of my experience. It's obviously a very historic high school, and I was at school there in '97, which was the 40th anniversary of the integration, and that
Sure.
was actually the first time that Little Rock Nine came back to Central all together to talk about their experience, and just to see them and hear them and learn from them, that was a truly that had a huge impact on my development. And
Hmm.
every 10 years now we celebrate the
Right.
anniversary of the integration. We just did last year, and being in the legislature and a Central alum, I had a small role in it. And the one point I wanted to make to them is never let it be said that what they did to integrate schools in this country, it didn't just benefit people of color.
Hmm.
My experience was enriched completely by the experience I had at Central. And really, my closest ally in the state legislature right now is an African American classmate of mine from Central.
Is
And
that right?
we, yes, sir, yeah, and we've been friends for a long time. And that's just one example. And that's just my life. That's just our school. And you think about the impact they had on the country and the world. It's really hard to understand, and probably the most meaningful thing that's happened to me in my race so far this year is that 3 members of the Little Rock Nine have endorsed me and are supporting me in this race. And
That's
so
great.
when that happens, it's just so overwhelming, but it's also highly motivating because even though it's impossible, you want to do everything you can to live up to their example.
I can say on Clark's behalf, folks, it's almost impossible to be raised in that environment, literally inhaling that history every day and turn out wrong. I just want to make it as simple as that. So Clarke obviously
Oh,
gets it. And I tell you, Clarke, I'm on the board in Selma of the Jubilee, where we commemorate
hmm
Bloody Sunday every year. Last
yeah,
year, and I wish I had known, I wish we had met while I was there. For the first time, I was in Little Rock. I was there for the 50th last year. I had not
uh,
been, and I was so blessed to have that experience and talk with some of the Little Rock Nine. It was a beautiful
yeah,
experience I had, and how moving. I wish we'd had a chance to meet and bump into each other then. So just being there
yes, sir.
and the experience I had, and I've been to Selma, I've been to the Lorraine Motel, I've been to a lot of places on the Civil Rights Trail. Birmingham was my first time in Little Rock, and yeah, you can't even if you went, you can't even be in that building and miss it, even if you wanted to.
That's right.
There's just no way you
That's
can
right.
escape it. And you're absolutely right. What I witnessed was, as we know about our civil rights history, it wasn't just helping and saving and good for black folk. I mean, it was redemptive for everyone. And so that very atmosphere is a very positive one and a redemptive one and a forward progressive one. Again, that's why I don't understand why everything in Arkansas ain't still blue. But maybe we'll get
Right.
back to
That's
that.
right.
But no, I can
That's
speak for
right.
that. I witnessed that firsthand. So obviously you do get it, and we are thankful for that. Clarke Tucker with us, folks. Arkansas second. Now, Um, what we mentioned expansion of Medicaid. What other issues are important to citizens in the Arkansas second that you are promoting?
Well, I think the three critical issues that affect every family in Central Arkansas and the country are healthcare, education, and the economy. And I view education and the economy as two sides of the same coin. Pre-K is really the issue. Early childhood education is an issue that I am extremely passionate about. It's one that I ran on the most for the state legislature. I just think it's our best shot at leveling the playing field for our youngest kids. And first of all, it's just the smartest investment we can make as a society. But it's also just the right thing to do to take care of our 2 and 3 and 4-year-old kids. They ought to be given every opportunity to fulfill 100% of their God-given potential.
Mm-hmm.
And the best opportunity we have to give them that chance is to invest in them as early as we can. And all the way through, making sure people can start their careers without crippling debt. If they don't want to go to a 4-year institution, then we ought to have alternative career pathways available to them. And that's where it translates right into the economy. In 2018, if you work full time, you ought to be able to afford life's basic needs, and that's just not the case. We need more of a living wage, and we also need more good-paying jobs, and we need life's basic needs like health care and child care to cost less.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
those are some of the issues that I'm talking about. Criminal justice reform is actually another issue. It's probably the issue that I ended up spending the most time on in the state legislature, and we passed some great legislation here. I worked on a bunch, parole and probation reform, but I really focused on being smarter about how we approach people with mental health and substance abuse needs in the criminal justice system. Because if you treat that underlying issue instead of doing what we have done as a state and as a country for decades, which is just to incarcerate people
Right.
with those issues, then you actually lower taxpayer costs for the criminal justice system because it's cheaper to treat the underlying issue than it is to imprison someone. And we also enhance public safety and reduce crime because you're much less likely to commit another crime in the future if you
That's
receive
right.
treatment than if you go to prison.
That's
But
right.
then, again, I try to focus on things that are both the smart thing to do
Mm-hmm.
and the right thing to do. So it's smart
Mm-hmm.
to take better care of the members of our community, but it's also just the right thing to do. And we're taking better care of our people at the same time. So that's another issue that I've spent a lot of time working on and that I hope to continue in Congress.
I hope the audience will notice as we speak with Clarke Tucker, 22 minutes past the hour. I hope the audience will notice that all of these young and up and coming progressive Democratic candidates this cycle are talking a lot about education, reinvesting in human beings in their own states and districts. Clarke, that's an overwhelming theme. The last time we talked with Stacey Abrams, who just won, that was
Yeah.
an overwhelming theme with my friend Ben Jealous, who's running for governor of Maryland, Andrew Gillum, who's running for governor in Florida. So, again, that's something you guys all get on a state by state basis, and it's about time we had these conversations because we get so caught up in the national debate. It's even hard for those of you running at the state level, even as congressional candidates, to get the kind of publicity out there and the kind of coverage to
Right.
some of the issues you're trying to raise. But I notice I have no reason, I don't have any evidence that the four of you have talked. But as I've had
Yeah.
each of you
That's
on
right.
the show individually and
Yeah.
others, when you get down to that state level, education, health, but especially education, I mean, we can't rebuild the nation and get the nation where it's supposed to be if the citizens in our various states don't have good access to education and in post-secondary education have access to affordable education.
That's right. That's right. I read something recently, and it was on Twitter, so it may not be 100% reliable. But what I read was the two states with the highest education budgets have the smallest prison budgets, and the two states with the lowest education budgets have the highest prison budgets.
There it is.
And that's just not a coincidence.
Yeah.
85% of kids in juvenile detention facilities are functionally illiterate,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just not a coincidence. And
Yeah.
if we take better care of our kids, then it's just the best thing that we can do as a society, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that too. We had a caller call in yesterday he was actually trolling me. Because I wasn't talking enough about the story of the cop killed in Baltimore. And when I read about it in the Baltimore Sun, even the way the Sun wrote the story, Clarke, and this makes your point, it was very tragic. This was a 16-year-old who had been stealing cars all over Baltimore since December. The juvenile justice system failed him. It wasn't so much, the right wing, likes to, push their own agenda and memes. They were trying to say, oh, this is a cop killer, cop killer. He didn't fall in that category at all. It was a very unfortunate circumstance. But if the system, the education system and the juvenile justice system hadn't failed this child, he was 16, he was a child, then that never would have happened. Everything is not as black and white as people want to make it. And that's an example you make. If we invest in educating our children, giving them the opportunities they deserve, they don't have to go into the criminal justice system or even become institutionalized. So that's very, very important. But let me ask you this now. Clarke Tucker with us. The speaker, the Democrats, all of them were on Capitol Hill the other day, and they were, rolling out the strategy for the midterms. And while it's pretty much agreed, campaigning on impeachment, I mean, nobody would suggest you put impeachment as the headline on your website. But what Nancy Pelosi did and others did say is that we ought to campaign on corruption. Is that a good thing, a good strategy for you in your state? Are people concerned about that? I know they're concerned about the important things in their everyday lives, as you demonstrated. It's hard to ignore all the drama in Washington because that's what dominates the news 24/7. But does that come up as you press the flesh? Do you talk about, do people ask about that? Do you raise the issue of corruption in the White House?
It really doesn't come up.
Okay.
Except in one of the ways that you just put it, which is that, when the president tweets and that's what the news covers and that's what everybody talks about, it does actually prevent us from concentrating on the issues that are important to people in their lives. And so it's that distraction as much as anything that's problematic, I think, for the people here, because I want to really focus on them and ways to help them. And some days it's tougher than others when, there's drama coming out of Washington.
Yeah. His name is Clarke, as you all can obviously hear in his voice. He's very mild-mannered. But what do we know about mild-mannered men named Clarke? What are they actually in their other lives? They're superheroes.
Yeah.
And we know he'll be a superhero in Congress. Y'all make that a commercial, Clarke. I think I just did something.
I think you did.
My man, listen, good luck to you. You need some money, man? You got money or you need some money? You need people to send you some money?
I need some money. Yeah. If my campaign people are listening right now, if I didn't say that, they might
it'd be over, wouldn't it? Folks, we want you to go to his website, clarketucker.com. And listen, folks, our team of Democratic candidates is winning with small dollar donations. Think about that. $3, $4, $5, $10 here and there. That helps, doesn't it, Clarke?
Number one, every single dollar helps. And number two, those small dollar contributions add up.
Yeah. It does. It does add up. Well, man, as we're on our stream sharing some of the pictures of you and your family and some of the videos, lovely family, lovely story. And as I said, folks, it's embedded in him. He comes from great stock just by virtue of the fact of his family and also attending Little Rock Central High. Good luck to you, man, and anything we can do going forward into November, we're willing to do. We're going to keep pushing you in your campaign and claim the victory. All right, Clarke?
That sounds like a plan to me. I cannot thank you enough for having me on your show and for offering so much support.
All right, you got it, man. Keep up the good work. ClarkeTucker.com, folks. Send him some money. Send him a few dollars. Thank you, Clarke.
Can I add it? There's an E on the end of Clarke.
Yes, it is. Right, absolutely. Right. I should have said it. Right. There is an E on the end of Clarke. Forgive me. I do know that. Clarke with an E, folks. ClarkeTucker.Clarke. Love to your family, Clarke, okay?
All right, will do. Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate it.
All right. I appreciate you, man. Take care now. All right, folks.